Thanks for taking the time. So my name's Andy Brown. I'm the product director here at Kocho. I look after all of our product strategy, go-to-market, technical pre-sales, things like that. That's all my world. And I'm delighted that today we've been joined by Tom Waller, one of our senior architects. Mr. Windows, I'm going to call him. Very experienced in the world of Windows management, deployment, security, strategy. And fantastic he's been able to make a bit of time to distill some of his thoughts into this webinar today. Right, let's crack on. In terms of introductions, I think we've already done that. A little bit from me just about Kocho. For those of you who don't know us, quick setting the scene from me, just to make sure we're all on the on the right webinar, and then over to Tom to get into the meat of the presentation. So Kocho, we are obviously a Microsoft solutions partner, really strong in the world of cyber identity, security, endpoint. We have a lot of the Microsoft accreditations and specializations, as you would expect. Probably most relevant for today is the modernized endpoints specialization, which clearly is very much part of the conversation here. Really strong in terms of our security credentials. We are a member of MISA, and indeed, spend a lot of time with Microsoft, making sure that we stay aligned to them, and obviously we can feedback on what we're seeing with our clients back to them as well. In terms of our scale, we're over 400 staff, spread across a number of countries, and look, growing as a company. Plenty of clients out there, just a few selection on screen there. But look, ultimately, we're here to help organizations with their modern strategy. In terms of the way we go about that, probably the number one pillar we anchor that around, and indeed the reason we're here today, is to talk about end user compute and that whole area around management, security, ongoing maintenance, hardware, you name it, all comes under that banner. The wider security and cyberspace. So we are very much anchored around the Microsoft stack in that space, and platform again anchored around Azure, but everything around running your infrastructure. This is where we can help our customers. And on the application stack, increasingly modernization of traditional applications, bringing them into future data strategy and the ability to actually start to automate and indeed plug AI into those various applications is something that we're able to help with also. In terms of what we do, everything in terms of gun for hire professional services, including the likes of Mr. Waller here, all the way through to delivery of the technology to the end user's hands in the business transformation practice there. And indeed, a lot of what we will do is through the delivery of technology as a service for our customers. So whether that's managed services, support services across the Microsoft stack, or indeed cyber, SecOps, we've got our own SOC that we're very proud of, and which we deliver great managed services for our managed security services for our customers all over. In terms of what we're famous for, we are the identity, endpoint, service, and cyber and security specialists. That's enough from me in terms of who we are. Hopefully you now know us a bit better. So setting the scene, this is going to be quite quick. Let's get to Tom in a minute. So why are we all here? Well, unless you've been living under a rock, we're here to talk obviously about the world of Windows 10. Little fun fact for you though. Windows 10's actually been around for a lot longer than you think. It's now, we're nudging up towards a decade of Windows 10 out there. It actually hit back in 2015, which is pretty staggering to think about. And obviously the reason why we're here today is to talk about Windows 11 in particular. And amazingly enough, Windows 11 came out in 2021, which is another scary little insight. But fundamentally, what Windows 10 ushered in for the first time was real big choices you could make in terms of the way you look to manage and secure your endpoints for the first time. Certainly moved the game on quite a lot from the world of Windows 7. Windows 11 is built on that, and indeed is a real opportunity to not just keep doing the things you always did, I think is a fair summary. However, probably the main reason why everybody is on the call today is because this is starting to loom large in the diary. If you're on this call, I would guess you're thinking about Windows 11 adoption and how you're going to go about hitting this deadline. 14th of October, that's a quick Google search, which will just show you that. And I think it's really interesting to just quickly dive into how the adoption of Windows looks versus other operating systems that you probably support in your environments as well. So here is the latest graph I could get from StatCounter to give us an idea of the worldwide market share of Windows 11 versus other flavors of Windows. That purple line at the top you can see is Windows 10. The slowly growing blue line is Windows 11. So first thing to say, if you are on Windows 10 and you're still planning your Windows 11 deployment, it's pretty obvious from that graph you're not alone. I think it's fair to say still 60% of endpoints roughly are still on Windows 10. And Windows 11 is growing. You can see it kind of stalled over Christmas, which is no great surprise. Change embargoes probably kicked in across the enterprise market, but it's now starting to climb again. And indeed, people really starting to target the deadline coming from Microsoft. Compare that to the world of a mobile operating system. So this is iOS, and I won't labor the point here, but this is kind of I've always used the phrase that mobile operating systems are a bit of a signpost to the future sometimes. And this is the world of mobile. And you'll know this from your day-to-day management, I dare say, of these endpoints as well. An update comes out, it gets pushed out by default, everyone adopts it, and then the next one comes along. And you can see how quickly the graph grows for any version of iOS as it's released. The interesting thing is this is kind of the model that's baked in potentially to Windows as well now, and indeed potentially something you can look to leverage more and more, so that there is a possibility this could be the last time we have to hold a webinar even to talk about the next version of Windows, because it will just happen. Imagine that. So with that in mind, I think it's time to really get into the approach to doing all of this. So I'm going to hand over to Tom. Tom, perhaps if you could take us through the road to success, please, on Windows 11.
Absolutely. Yep, it will be my pleasure. Thank you, Andy. I'm just going to attempt a seamless cut over to my laptop. There we go. Hopefully that should all be good for everyone.
Yep.
Okay. Lovely. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you about why now is the perfect time to rethink your modern desktop strategy. And this is, especially relevant as we prepare for the end of Windows 10 support in October 2025. So that clock is ticking, and a seamless migration to Windows 11 presents an opportunity, really, not just for an operating system upgrade, but to transform how your organization approaches IT. So we'll be walking through a proven 6-point roadmap for a smooth and effective migration to Windows 11. So these steps will ensure that your migration is not only efficient, but is also aligned with the modern desktop strategy that positions your IT infrastructure for what's next. So let's get started. The first step in any successful Windows 11 migration is auditing your current digital estate. So why is this so critical? Well, it's because you need a clear understanding of the devices that are in use, their hardware capabilities and compatibility with Windows 11. So this involves device readiness. So how do I know if my hardware is ready? So to determine if your devices are ready for Windows 11, start by comparing them against the Windows 11 system requirements, which we'll have a look at in just a moment. These requirements include specifications for the processor, memory, storage, TPM chip, which is quite important for the enhanced security that Windows 11 brings. So Microsoft have a set specific requirements to ensure optimal performance and security. Some of those key specifications include 1 GHz or faster processor with at least 2 cores, 4 GB of RAM or more, 64 GB of storage or greater, UEFI firmware with secure boot capability, a TPM chip at version 2 or higher, and a DirectX 12 compatible graphics card or integrated GPU. Fortunately, most organizations have tools in place that can help audit device specifications at scale, and we're going to cover some of those in just a moment. One of the key advantages of Windows 11 is its focus on security from chip to cloud. This built-in security model helps prevent unauthorized access to things like critical data and applications. It helps support modern passwordless authentication methods, which you typically find in something like Windows Hello for Business. So going back to the tools I mentioned around assessing hardware readiness at scale. So Microsoft Endpoint Analytics is a really invaluable tool for assessing your current device fleet. It provides insights into hardware readiness for Windows 11, and it helps you identify devices that may require upgrades or potentially replacement. It works for devices that are currently cloud managed by Intune, but it can also be used for devices that are tenant attached through Configuration Manager version 2107 or later. For those that you've previously used Windows or desktop analytics, it should be mentioned that that's no longer in support, and it was retired a couple of years ago. So we can't lean on those tools to help us here. You can also use update compliance reporting for Windows 11. Microsoft Update Compliance can be used to monitor device compliance with Windows 11 updates. This tool provides real-time insights into update status, enabling IT teams to proactively address issues and ensure that devices remain compliant throughout that entire migration process. And finally, if you're using Configuration Manager, you also have the ability to use PowerShell scripts. These can be employed to automate that readiness assessment. These scripts can quickly scan your device inventory and generate reports on Windows 11 compatibility. So saving you time, ensuring accuracy, and we know what we're deploying to. But beyond hardware, it's essential to audit, applications and services that your teams rely on daily. This includes legacy applications that may require compatibility testing or modernization potentially. Typically, I recommend categorizing these apps into three groups or buckets: migrate as is, require remediation, or retire. And doing this groundwork really does help ensure that you can approach a Windows 11 migration with clarity, making the process much more predictable and less disruptive going forward. So on to step 2, which is implement a phased migration to Windows 11. So once we have that clear picture of the digital estate and what we're working with, the next step is planning that phased migration. And why phased? Because trying to migrate all devices at once is a recipe for disruption. A phased approach really does help you prioritize critical business units or departments, potentially. It lets us test the migration process in a controlled environment before scaling up or scaling out. And it really gives us the ability to address any unexpected issues that may occur in smaller batches. Kind of as Andy alluded to earlier, big bang, isn't always feasible, and it may not be kind of what we roll with later on when Windows 12 comes down the line. A one-time massive migration can be complex and it can be disruptive. So phased deployments provide that flexibility and they help reduce operational risk. And something we see, often is, a kind of planning limbo. So that phased approach kind of prevents your organization from getting stuck in endless planning. Instead, it gets you to the destination in manageable steps, and that's quite important given the time frame we're working with here. We can prioritize systems with the highest security and compliance risks. So focus first on devices or business units where security and compliance risks are the highest, and this reduces vulnerabilities during the migration. We can also move devices to cloud-native management where possible. So the cloud offers greater scalability, flexibility, and reduced dependency on traditional infrastructure. Something like Windows Autopilot and Microsoft Intune can make it easier to provision, configure, and manage devices directly from the cloud. And then there's coexistence of cloud-native and hybrid devices. So cloud-native and hybrid devices can, in some cases should coexist. This hybrid approach allows for a gradual transition without disrupting existing operations. And ultimately, stop the rot. I mean, I don't particularly like that phrase, but it's really relevant. Bring new devices straight to the cloud. So a best practice is to ensure that all new devices that come into the organization are cloud native from the beginning. This prevents adding more traditional managed devices to your estate, making your environment much more agile and secure. And for organizations that are using Configuration Manager, if you're not ready to make the jump straight into cloud native just yet, don't forget that there's in-place upgrade available, and Microsoft have made this a really compelling option for phased deployments in a traditionally managed world. So I have this follow-up slide actually that depicts kind of a traditional and modern managed devices and their capabilities plotted on a graph. So this kind of helps illustrate the importance of moving up the maturity curve toward a fully managed or fully modern managed environment. By following this phased approach, you can achieve a smoother, less disruptive migration and set the stage for a future-proof desktop environment. So how can you actually upgrade to Windows 11? Well, there's several approaches, each bring their own pros and cons. So as I mentioned, we have the in-place upgrade available using Configuration Manager. And this can offer minimal disruption for end users. It helps retain user data, applications, and settings. It can be managed at scale using task sequences and scheduling. So we're not talking necessarily about a wipe and replace as we would traditionally in a big bang approach. But however, be aware that this approach requires some careful testing to ensure that compatibility with existing applications is still there. And some legacy systems may not meet Windows 11 requirements, and this is where that device auditing helps. Another potential option is for new devices to be purchased and provisioned with Windows Autopilot. So this can help provide a clean slate with the latest Windows 11 features. It provides simplified device provisioning and reduces your IT overhead. And it allows or can allow for zero-touch deployment directly from the manufacturer. However, just consider that it may require significant upfront investment in new hardware if you purchase in new kit for Windows 11. Users may need time to reinstall or reconfigure personal applications, and it may require admins to stage those applications or settings into Intune for deployment. And lastly, if you're already fortunate enough to be using Intune, feature updates can be utilized. So the advantages there are seamless incremental updates for users, automated compliance checks, which ensure readiness before deployment, and a reduction in the need for that large-scale deployment project. Some things to consider with this approach are it may require additional configuration to avoid update failures, and you have limited control over update scheduling, so you don't get as much of that granularity in terms of scheduling that you get with Configuration Manager today. So what's the best practice? Well, it's really a combined approach. So in most cases, a combination of these approaches works best. So for example, use Autopilot for new devices coming into the organization and onboard them into cloud native management. This works especially well for knowledge workers, users that use the Office 365 productivity suite, but it's a great way to get yourself into a pilot in production. And for existing devices managed by Configuration Manager, you already have the tools in place to get you up to Windows 11. Given the time frame remaining until end of support, make the most of that existing investment by using in-place upgrade. Even if we can't do all those devices, by the October deadline, the more we chip away at the number of Windows 10 devices, the better. This combined approach, it allows organizations to balance user experience, security, and operational efficiency during a Windows 11 migration. In-place upgrade, I think it's fair to say it's come on leaps and bounds over the years. While in previous versions of Windows, I'd say maybe it wasn't particularly the best, I can assure you it's a whole new beast right now, and it definitely should be considered as part of your migration toolkit. So moving on to step 3, ensure all identity and access management processes are secure. So security is a top priority during any IT transformation, and your migration to Windows 11 is no exception. A critical area to focus on is identity and access management. With the rise of hybrid work, ensuring secure access to resources from anywhere is essential. So some components of interest are conditional access and multi-factor authentication. So hopefully this won't come as a surprise. We've been talking about this for a while. But implementing conditional access policies allows you to control access based on specific conditions, such as user location, device status, or risk level. And these policies are vital for ensuring security without compromising user productivity. And with multi-factor authentication, this remains one of, if not the most effective way to protect your user accounts. So by requiring additional verification steps, you can significantly reduce the risk of unauthorized access. There's been a lot of work, in fairness, over the last few years from organizations across the globe to make sure conditional access and MFA are in place. But believe it or not, we do still come across the odd organization that haven't established robust controls. We also speak to a lot of organizations that had previously implemented these controls and are in need of a review to ensure that they're functioning as they should. It really is a quick win. It's one that can significantly improve your security posture, irrespective of a Windows 11 migration. And another contender for increased identity and access management security is Entra ID protection. So Microsoft Entra provides advanced identity protection capabilities that help detect and respond to identity-based threats in real time. Some key features include risk detection, so automatically identifying suspicious sign-in behavior or risky user activity, automated remediation, so enforcing a conditional access policy or policies when risks are detected, ensuring that potential threats are addressed immediately, and identity insights, being able to provide actionable insights to improve your organization's security posture. By strengthening your identity and access management processes with these tools and strategies, you can protect your organization against unauthorized access and ensure that only the right people have access to the right resources. Step 4, enable end-to-end device management with Microsoft Intune. Device management is a critical component of a modern desktop strategy. Microsoft Intune provides a powerful platform for managing Windows 11 devices from the cloud. So, going cloud native, modern management is gone. Say hello to cloud native. The solutions available today make it possible for most organizations actually to operate purely from a cloud native stance without relying on legacy infrastructure. If your organization is still using co-management as a stepping stone, definitely time to make that last step. The transition to Windows 11 provides an excellent opportunity to move away at least some of your endpoints directly into cloud native management. So going cloud native offers several advantages, and we touched on some of them already, but scalability and flexibility. You can quickly adapt your environment to meet changing business needs. You get improved security, so cloud native environments benefit from continuous updates and real-time security monitoring. And you have that cost efficiency. So by eliminating on-premise infrastructure, you can really reduce your hardware and operational costs. But it's essential, as always, that this approach to transition is thoroughly thought through. Consider the needs of different departments and make sure that adequate support is in place. When moving to cloud-native device management strategies with Windows 11 and Intune, it's absolutely critical to consider the full life cycle of a device. A well-thought-out approach ensures that devices are managed efficiently and securely from the moment they enter the organization to when they are finally retired. The four key pillars of this life cycle are enroll, configure, protect, and support and retire. So let's break that down through each of those pillars and talk about some of the best practices associated with each of them. So pillar one, enroll, simplified device onboarding. So device enrollment is the first step toward effective lifecycle management, and some best practices are, using Windows Autopilot. So would leverage Windows Autopilot for zero-touch device provisioning. Devices are pre-configured directly from the manufacturer and ready to use upon user receipt. You also have the ability to do pre-provisioning, so IT can pre-stage content on that device before sending it onwards. Self-service enrollment, empowering users to enroll their own devices securely using Microsoft Intune's self-service capabilities, and BYOD integration, so ensuring that personal devices can be securely enrolled with conditional access policies and management profiles. This all allows for faster onboarding with minimal IT intervention, enhanced user experience with ready-to-use devices, and simplified procurement processes as those devices can ship directly to your users. And then we have pillar two, which is configure, standardize and secure device settings. Once the device is enrolled, it must be configured to ensure compliance and security. And some best practices there are configuration profiles, using Intune to apply consistent policies for security compliance and performance, policy as code. So thinking about and potentially adopting a configuration as code mindset to ensure policy updates are version controlled and scalable. Security baselines, so applying Microsoft's recommended security baselines for Windows 11 to meet industry best practices. We have custom ADMX templates. So, we can migrate essential group policy settings using custom ADMX templates in Intune. I have a little bit more on that on the next slide. And then feature update control. So, ensuring timely updates with Intune's feature update policies, allowing for staged rollouts and kind of evergreen principles. So this can lead to consistent configuration across all devices, enhanced security posture with centralized policy management, and reduced configuration drift over time. And pillar three, protect. So this is about implementing robust security measures across the device lifecycle, including data encryption, compliance policies, and threat detection to safeguard corporate assets and user information. Some best practices here include data encryption, as mentioned, so ensuring sensitive data is encrypted both at rest and in transit using BitLocker. Compliance policies, defining and enforcing security baselines and device compliance through Intune to maintain that secure environment. We have threat detection, so that's leveraging Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to monitor and respond to potential threats in real time. And then patch management, so implementing an evergreen patch management process to keep devices updated with the latest security patches. We also have zero trust approach here, which helps apply the principles of zero trust, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail shortly, by continuously verifying device and user identities before granting access. So these practices help ensure that your organization stays protected throughout the device lifecycle, reducing vulnerabilities and strengthening your overall security posture. And then lastly, we have pillar four, which is support and retire. So this is the final stage of the life cycle. It's about securely decommissioning devices, essentially, whilst providing support whilst they're up and running. And some best practices here are utilizing services like remote wipe. So that's ensuring that sensitive data is removed using Intune's remote wipe capability. Device recovery, so being able to automate the recovery process to prepare devices for reuse or resale. Compliance reporting, so maintain audit trails to demonstrate and secure device decommissioning. And user self-help portals, so empowering users with the knowledge bases and self-service portals for common issues. That's something that I'm quite keen on in sort of cloud-native modern management, is providing our users with the tools to be more self-sufficient and embrace self-service where we can. So this all provides enhanced data security, through effective decommissioning, reduced environmental impact by repurposing devices where possible, and improved compliance posture by tracking the life cycle of every device. The device life cycle it's about more than just hardware. It's about providing a seamless, secure, and efficient experience for your users while maintaining control and governance. By focusing on these 4 pillars: enroll, configure, protect, support, and retire, you can ensure that your organization is positioned for long-term success. And what about device configuration and group policy, I hear you ask? Well, the legacy group policy environment presents technical debt that can be a burden. Just because you can migrate group policy settings into Intune really doesn't mean you should. It gives us an opportunity here to free ourselves from 10 plus years of legacy configuration by starting fresh. So if certain group policy settings are essential, and these typically are application specific policies that we typically see as being essential, Intune does offer custom ADMX import option so that we can bring those in if need be. But consider leveraging configuration profiles as a modern alternative really to group policy, because by fully embracing Intune's capabilities and moving toward a cloud native strategy, you'll gain better agility, enhanced security, and a more streamlined Windows 11 management experience. So step 5, enhance security with a zero trust model. So as we move to Windows 11 and a modern desktop strategy, adopting a zero trust security model is essential. So the traditional castle and moat security model no longer holds up in today's hybrid and cloud native environments. As organizations start to migrate to Windows 11 and adopt modern management strategies, it's essential to embrace a zero trust security model. So zero trust operates on a principle of never trust, always verify. Every access request is thoroughly validated regardless of where it originates, whether inside or outside the corporate network. And to implement a zero trust strategy, organizations should focus on the following pillars. Identity, so authenticate and continuously verify users and devices with strong identity management practices. Endpoints, so ensure all endpoints, including Windows 11 devices, are secure and compliant before granting access. Applications, so protect access to both on-premises and cloud-based applications using role-based access controls. Data, so secure sensitive data with encryption and monitor its usage to prevent unauthorized access. Infrastructure, monitor and protect the entire infrastructure with visibility into network traffic and endpoint activity. And network, so implement microsegmentation, secure remote access, and continuous traffic monitoring to protect against unauthorized access and lateral movement. Windows 11 itself does support key zero trust security principles by design, so it's secure by default. The OS requires a TPM chip, secure boot, virtualization-based security, all of which align to modern security practices. Conditional access integration is there, so easily enforce that zero trust access controls using Microsoft Entra conditional access policies. We have MFA support, so strengthening user identity verification with built-in MFA options like Windows Hello for Business, and compliance and risk assessment, so Intune can automatically assess device compliance, enabling zero trust decisions at scale. So there's a number of technologies there that really help to support zero trust. Some of those are Microsoft Entra, as that centralized identity and access management platform, which supports conditional access and identity protection. Intune, so helps ensure device compliance and applies our security policy in line with zero trust principles. We have Defender for Endpoint, which delivers endpoint protection and threat detection across the Windows 11 estate and other devices. And Microsoft Sentinel, which helps monitor and analyze security signals, enabling rapid response to threats. All of these components really bring about benefits for Windows 11 and a modern desktop strategy, such as stronger security posture, improved user experience, continual threat monitoring, and operational efficiency. As we start to migrate to Windows 11, adopting a phased zero trust approach ensures that security remains robust throughout that entire process. So really, if we were starting now, start by securing user identities with MFA and conditional access policies, gradually transition devices to Intune managed cloud native environment, and monitor and continually enforce compliance through integrated Microsoft tools like Defender and Sentinel. So it's more than just a technology problem. That this is around process and governance as well. And by embedding zero trust into your Windows 11 strategy, you'll build a resilient, future-proof security framework that supports both innovation and protection in a cloud-first world. And finally, step 6, continuous monitoring with Microsoft Sentinel. Continuous monitoring is essential for maintaining the security and health of your IT environment, as we just discussed. And Microsoft Sentinel is a cloud-native security information and event management solution that provides advanced threat detection and response. And here's why it's important. So it includes real-time threat detection. So Sentinel uses AI and machine learning to detect and respond to threats in real time. It provides comprehensive visibility, so you get a single pane of glass for monitoring security across your organization. And it allows us to perform proactive threat hunting. So security analysts can proactively identify and mitigate threats. As we transition to a modern management strategy and roll out Windows 11 across the organization, maintaining visibility and security becomes increasingly critical. And this is really where Microsoft Sentinel can play a key role. So it helps, as I mentioned, detect threats in real time across endpoints, users, applications, and network infrastructure. It can help us automate instant response to mitigate security risks faster. We can use advanced machine learning algorithms to analyze vast amounts of security data and start to identify really patterns that could indicate potential threats. So Sentinel, it integrates seamlessly with other Microsoft security and management tools like Intune and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And this integration really helps provide unified dashboards to monitor that compliance and security across all managed endpoints, provides automated alerting for non-compliant and compromised Windows 11 devices, and it provides correlation of security signals to identify complex threats and misconfigurations. And a few benefits of using Sentinel, is its cost efficiency and scalability. So it's a pay-per-use model. Sentinel's pricing model allows you to scale monitoring analytics based on actual usage. It has a cloud-native architecture, so no need to, deploy and build a whole bunch of expensive on-premises infrastructure. And it can be deployed very quickly. And I guess more crucially, it can be adapted as your IT landscape evolves. So by adopting Microsoft Sentinel as part of your Windows 11 upgrade strategy, your organization gains better visibility, enhanced security, and the ability to respond proactively to any potential threat, ensuring a smoother migration and ongoing operational efficiency. So in conclusion, I'd just like to emphasize that the migration to Windows 11, it's really about more than just an operating system upgrade. It's an opportunity to transform your IT infrastructure and adopt a modern desktop strategy that positions your organization for the future. So our 6-point roadmap, from auditing your digital estate to continuous monitoring with Microsoft Sentinel, provides a comprehensive framework for success. I'd just like to thank everyone for your time today. I absolutely encourage you to start planning your migration if you haven't already today, to take advantage of this opportunity to modernize your digital estate.
Okay,
I think
thanks,
we will
Tom.
now open the Q&A, I think.
Yeah, well, and it's almost like therapy in the Q&A going on here. It's absolutely fantastic. I think people are supporting each other just in the Q&A panel here, which is great. So thank you, and thanks Tom for taking us through that. I'm going to try and pick out a few here just to say if we don't answer all of these, or indeed if some of these are quite very nuanced questions, we will get back to you on this. But let's start with a couple, and there's a few things I've kind of picked up on. In fact, I'll ask my one first because it is kind of important. Asking for a friend, how much will Windows 10 extended support actually cost?
So I think so. Word on the street on this one is it's likely to be around $60, I believe, per device per year, but that value increases year on year. So I think it doubles. Um, the complexity here is if you don't take ESU in the first year and take it in the second year, you still have to pay year one's fees, as I understand. So it can get expensive quite quickly.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Tom. Message received loud and clear. We probably need to get on with that. But okay, interesting one here. So what there's actually a bit of a thread going on here that I quite like, but let's just expand here. So if we are looking at all the basic components of Windows, so what's the replacement for logon scripts, Tom?
So logon scripts, I think, should have gone away a long time ago. But the answer is really a consultant's answer. It depends what you're doing with logon scripts, right? So we have plenty of capability in Intune to provide scripted type activities. So we have the ability to deploy PowerShell scripts and execute them at certain specific times, or we have the ability to provide remediation scripts. So if it's a logon script that's tweaking something in the system on logon, we can maybe convert that into a PowerShell remediation script. So it actually looks for a setting. So PowerShell will query that potential artifact on a device. If it's not compliant, we can also then fire another PowerShell script to remediate that setting. I mean, it really does depend. I don't see the thread at the moment, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd maybe get a bit more detail. But
pretty involved, I will admit, talking about Nutanix network file share drive mapping in particular. So,
well, I look forward to taking that and having a good read. But no, I mean,
definitely have a good chew on that one, I think, Tom. Yeah, so I think there's some points being made there about, obviously, if you're using a VPN and you're trying to run things at startup, how do you do the timing of this and scheduling of things? And map drives is still something that a lot of users are very familiar with, and it's going to be hard to break that them away from that in the short term, I would imagine.
Short term is the challenge, because really new ways of working come into play for things like file shares. We're seeing lots of organizations move away from file shares into Azure Files, or even better, SharePoint Online, and that's where data is stored and accessed securely. So I think it's fair to say, are more long-term ambitions for a lot of organizations. I think we're now at the stage, given it's February, that we need to get up to Windows 11. So maybe that, and we're working with organizations in this way today. We've got a Windows 11 in place upgrade going on whilst we're planning and deploying modern management behind the scenes. So it's in parallel. So the two don't have to go hand in hand, as I mentioned, but there are benefits in doing so.
Yeah,
we don't have the luxury of time today, unfortunately.
No, it makes sense. I think there's a few things here that probably I'm expanding some quite wordy questions here. So one was around hybrid join versus normal. There was a question around having to wipe devices. I think it got edited a little bit, but what's your view on this, Tom, in terms of if you're wanting to actually change the management mode of the endpoint as a result of doing Windows 11? Is it an in place, or is it a wipe?
It's a wipe. Yeah, if you're changing management, if you're changing the device identity, it's a wipe. That being said, I mean, you can use that wipe point in time as as an opportunity to bring that device back in through autopilot, so we can stage the hardware hashes into autopilot, and when the user's ready to onboard into modern management or cloud native, we can issue comms to the user to say, actually, hey, you can reset your PC now. It will fire back up and come in through the autopilot process, and then they'll be reprovisioned into the the new world.
Yep, makes sense. Well, look, we've got a load of questions here. I'll take one more, and some of these are more comments to each other, which I love.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Actually, it does raise the question of whether we should do this more as a roundtable, so that everybody can share the findings they've made as well, and perhaps we'll compare that. So that's maybe one to take away with our marketing team. See if we've got time to do that before October. Last one, which is a very specific product one. I'm not sure if you'll know this one. So how can Windows 11 Zero Trust integrate with a third-party solution like Netscope?
So we do actually have some organizations, some clients that do use Netscope to provide that secure service edge. Whilst we're not experts in Netscope ourselves, we see it when we talk to clients. And ultimately, Zero Trust is a set of principles, right? It's not a specific product set. So if you have gaps being filled by third-party products, then absolutely, I mean, that if it's working, that's absolutely fine. It's worth noting that Microsoft typically do offer their own product suite or products in various product suites to fit those gaps themselves. But as far as I'm concerned, there's gaps. If you've got tools that are plugging those gaps, then I'm happy.
Fair enough. Well, Tom, look, appreciate your time. Maybe if we will follow up with answers to all of this. I think we'll have to distill some of the conversations as well. But yeah, if you could just pump the slide on one for me. One of the things that might be useful to consider is, as a follow-up, perhaps book a call with someone like Tom, where we can actually talk about this in a bit more detail with you, because as is always the case, I think you can get in the weeds pretty quickly with this area, and every environment does look that little bit different. I think it's fair to say. So we will be back in touch with the follow-up to this. As part of that follow-up, I'm sure they'll be asking the question, but I said, if you have got further questions, or if you do want to discuss this a bit further, the offer is there. Please take us up on it. But for now, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us today. And yeah, we'll be back in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.